Steam's Next Fest is here, and by the time you're seeing this video, it's actually almost over. But I decided to do this video because I have been doing a lot of grinding the last few days while going through the Steam Next Fest. I decided I'm going to bring back my good old series called Cop or Drop, where I go through the massive catalog of demos in this game, pick the ones that I think are really cool, and see if they actually are going to be worth your time, and say if I would actually ever buy the game myself, marking it as a cop, and if I'm not into it as much and I feel like it's not for me, then it will be marked as a drop. And of course, the whole purpose of this series is to expose a bunch of brand new games to you guys, because for all I know, you may not have had time to check out the Steam Next Fest for yourself, and you may not be aware of all the cool games that might be coming out in the next few years, or even better, the next few months. So with all of that being said, let's get started with the very first game that I tried out, which was 1666 Amsterdam. So I know that this game has a little bit of a turbulent past because I know one of the creative directors, I believe his name was Patrice, who used to work at Ubisoft and wanted to conceive this game about a decade ago while at Ubisoft, but unfortunately he was fired. But now he's actually been able to bring this game to life to the point that he was able to now finally reveal that they have a full prologue available right now on Steam Next Fest, but it was available ever since its reveal at I believe was the Summer Games Fest. The demo follows Cleo and Noah, I believe I'm pronouncing her name right, also known as the Collector. And Cleo is trying to figure out her backstory in this Salem witch trial-esque dark fantasy world where she seems to have some connections to witchcraft in her bloodline. And all she wants to do is to learn more about what exactly was going on in her history because her dad left her a mysterious letter and she does not know how to read it because it's covered in a bunch of mystical text. After learning how to decode the letter, she actually gets a continuous narration of her father explaining the contents of the letter, breaking down that this man got some crazy magical coochie one day from a witch, got turned into a cat, ran back in time in some way to Noah and ran into her, and they went on some crazy adventures. At least that's what I got from the demo. I'm going to tell you this right now, this demo is very much of a slog to get through, not because of the actual gameplay, but because of the dialogue.
Woke up or something. I'm still not sure. I was a cat, Cleo. Yes, you read that well. I was a cat. Of course, I thought I was dreaming, but not for long. It was too real somehow. I could feel the fur on my body. It was scary, disturbing, but something was definitely calling to me from what seemed to be the other side. And then, in a forest, yes, a forest, I knew it in my bones. It was someone calling me, a woman.
If you were mad about God of War Laufey's small section of dialogue in that game, in that trailer, then you are going to absolutely loathe this game for the amount of quote-unquote millennial dialogue it's thrown at you throughout the entirety of the demo. If this is how the story is going to be told, I'm 100% going to be more or less inclined to jump into the game because it was nothing more than exuberant expository dialogue that's dumped on your head almost every second of the game. Like, you don't get a moment to breathe to actually understand what's going on, or you don't really leave that much mystery for you to understand. You just get explained everything to you from the very beginning, which I personally do not like. I do not like the idea of feel like I'm being treated like I don't know what's going on, or I don't give an opportunity to actually learn what's going on my own. And the only other major negative to me, for me personally, because the trailer actually re-emphasizes the combat system of the game, but you don't actually get to try it out in this demo. Now granted, this is only for the prologue, so it is a little bit of a stretch to think that they were going to show you some combat, but I was hoping just for a little bit to get a feel of what I might like or don't like. But if I'm only getting the prologue and a big exposition dump of the story, and this is what I'm being led with from the very beginning, it's starting to look like this game is going to be more of a drop for me until further notice. But I do really hope that they improve later on, maybe if they do a new demo when the game is closer to being released, but until then, it's looking like a drop for me. Mortal Shell 2. So I've actually played the first Mortal Shell, and I actually had a lot of fun playing that game despite me not completing it as of yet. But I am going to complete it sooner than later when this game releases, even though it might release this year. Now granted, this game doesn't have a demo, but it has its open beta going on right now ever since it was revealed that it was available after I believe Summer Games Fest or Xbox Games Fest. I don't know which one it was, but either way, it was alongside everything in Steam's Next Fest. And it's a standalone game that where the same story applies. Your flesh is your weapon, and Mortal Shell 2 is a standalone sequel to the action RPG from the first game, Mortal Shell, with adrenaline charged, high stakes combat where you possess warrior shells and dethrone false Chaos gods and try to redeem a ravaged world. Now, I went through over an hour of gameplay for this demo, and I'm going to tell you this right now, this has been a very fun introduction to the sequel of the game, because they have been cooking like crazy for this game, because the combat is snappy and fun, and also on top of that is epic and brutal. Nothing really feels too clunky or crazy or unnecessary. The fun executions that you can do to characters that lose their stamina, you can like slam their heads into the ground, or you can like pull their jaws off or pull their necks out, stuff like that. You know, doing essentially Mortal Kombat fatalities as you go through the game was a really fun introduction. And on top of that, the music was fantastic, a fantastic blend of alternative rock or heavy metal with some epic dark orchestral music on top of that was a fantastic way for me to immerse into the universe of Mortal Shell 2. The only major negative I ran into was that one of the final bosses in the open beta actually got bugged out at the last end of it because he accidentally, took himself out. Now, Souls-like are no stranger to, bosses having a little bit of gimmicks to themselves where they can die in very goofy ways, but it actually, kept me from progressing in the game, so I had to take myself out so that the boss can be reset and I can continue on and progress through the beta until the very end. But yeah, this game is definitely a cop. If you really are into Souls-like games, this is a game for you. If you played Elden Ring, Dark Souls, or even the first Mortal Shell, this is a game for you to cop 100%, and I know I'm gonna cop it for myself. X. So I have zero idea if I pronounced that game's title properly whatsoever, so if anything, if the developer of this game ever sees this, just confirm for me if I said it right or wrong at all. But until then, I am just gonna call it X. So this game actually got some attention a while back, being that it's supposed to be an inspiration of Naruto. So if you really are into arena fighters and you love Naruto and you've ever wondered what Naruto's training was like fighting against Gamabunta or Gamakichi, then this is a game for you. This game is where you are playing as a frog hunter or a pseudo vigilante something, I'm not entirely sure, but he says he's a frog hunter, where you run around and you hunt frogs. Now, seemingly when the game fully releases, you're able to fight other kinds of villains also, but for the most part for the demo, you are only fighting against frogs. And that's the majority of your swamp adventure. Now, as I was playing this demo, I actually was having a lot of fun. But one of the things that I believe is holding this game back is its camera movement and somehow a little bit how the abilities work. Now, when you're playing this game, the camera movement is pretty dynamic because as far as I'm concerned, this game doesn't have controller support because I couldn't use my controller. So I was using keyboard and mouse for this, and there's a lot of weird sensitivity issues that I was having with the camera movement because you're trying to keep track of the frog that you're fighting, and they like to do flash steps and parries, and they do perfect dodges. So you have to kind of turn around and keep track of them as they're moving around. But if you don't increase your sensitivity, you're kind of screwed. But I felt like I was also running into issues where I couldn't connect some of the combos that I was trying to do throughout the game. But as I get to the higher difficulties, it shows that there's potential and great potential for really fun combos, but I just couldn't get them because it felt like where I feel like I could hit them, they could hit me first and I couldn't hit them. But then that's like fighting game logic, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. And I think on top of that, it doesn't help that you don't get a full grasp of the abilities that you have. Because in the final fight in the game, or I believe is the final fight because I never actually got past it, is that you switch from the frog hunter to be using a different frog, and it's like a play on being a Namek frog. And while you're playing that frog, you have a bunch of different abilities. You can do a tongue strike, you can do slamming in the ground, like you have a completely different moveset than the first character that you're using. So it was a little bit hard for me to figure it out as I went along. Now, obviously, if you're trying to figure out the character, it's fine. But as soon as I was trying to combo with this hard level character after switching from the main character that I just got used to, it was a little bit of a jarring shift. So I believe that if they wanted to do the demo, I should have just kept it as the main character that I started out with in the very beginning. But outside of that, up to this point, it's a really fun demo. I really do wish they had music in this demo because in the fights, it's just you smacking the frog and you're hearing the motions and the movements, but no battle music, no nothing, which limited my enjoyment. So I had to use my own music when I was playing in the demo. But honestly, I'm just gonna say this right now, this game has really great potential to be really fun, even be a little bit of a cool classic of a arena fighter, but they just need to do a little bit more improvements on the battle system and on the cameras. So right now this game is seemingly closer to a maybe, but it's closer to a cop. So I'm not entirely sure if I would ever get it, but right now it's closer to a cop than a drop. Moss and the Forgotten Relic. So in this game, we are following our little cutesy mouse friend Quill, where you are going through an emotional and atmospheric puzzle adventure set within a living storybook, while you can hear the narration of a mother believing to be reading to her child, where a tiny hero and a watchful spirit must work together to overcome challenges far greater than either one alone, facing off against crazy threats like mechanical crabs and giant crazy lava bosses. So I've been essentially calling this game The Tale of Despero the Game, you know, that old school childhood movie from, I don't know, I believe it was 2011, 2008, I don't remember, with a mouse that has really big ears and also runs around with a sword. That's what this game reminded me of, and I was actually very intrigued by that idea, and that was the main reason that was drawing me towards this game in the first place. So of course I was more than willing to try the demo, and the demo is exactly what it is. It's an atmospheric, chill game that has really good voice acting for Quill, the main character, her grandpa, and even the narrator for the mom who's reading to her child. Like, it was really good, calming experience to go through, but on top of that, the combat is actually really fun to do because it's a mix of melee and arcane based combat where you can actually do like magic attacks and you get more weapons as you go along through the game. Funny enough, given how adorable the character is, I believe there is a concept going on out there that people believe that the mouse is so cute that they're more than willing to like go through a mode where they don't have to see her get hurt in any capacity. So they even added something to the game where you can just skip combats entirely, which I feel like defeats the purpose of the game personally, but I get where it's coming from, and I think that's a little bit of a fun thing to add to the game. Now, the only negatives I will say is that I was having some audio issues. I do not know where exactly what was happening more often, but sometimes it would have audio cutting in and out of the game. I thought it was maybe me, but it seems like it was in the game itself, so I don't know entirely what's going on there, but it's so minor, it doesn't happen very often, but it's something you want to take note of as soon as you notice. I also really like the fact that there is a little bit of a sign language being sent to you through Quill, like if in certain scenes when she's looking at the camera, like fourth wall breaking, you get a little bit of sign language, which I thought was really cute also to add to the game. So for now, right now, Moss is going to be a cop for me. I 100% was more than willing to cop this game from the very beginning, especially if it's like a 10-hour experience, like it's not a super long game, which I really do hope. If it's longer, that's fine, but I do hope it's actually a good contained experience in a couple hours. Project Turbo Blast. So now we're shifting gears and going into the racing game genre. Now, I'm not super well versed in the racing game sphere, but this game caught my attention because of the stylization it has, because it's a very highly stylized racing game where you drift, boost, and spin around corners at blasting, blinding speed in stylish single player and also multiplayer arcade racing modes, blending in with familiar drifting of kart racers and tight responsive handling of classic anti-gravity racing games. Now, I really love the look of this game. This game is built for the very thing that they're talking about, which is speed. The main thing that you'll be going through this entire game doing is just going at lightning speeds on every track that you're going on. And also, you might be standing in the stylized customization section of your racer because, you know, you can have a little bit of fun with the customization of your racer, especially if you have acquired tastes. Damn, I couldn't pick myself for no reason. Why? I'm trying to do the C version. It's too much done, not much different. Oh, that's the difference. You see that? You see that? B has the C doesn't. So you know what? We're gonna be flash chested. We're gonna be the flash chested, you know, the itty bitty titty community. But that's what we're going for. This game was really fun to go through. They have like different modes as you go along. You know, the typical racing modes. You have time rush modes, and also on top of that, they have a mode called blast mode, a mode that I've never really seen before come up on any racing game, where basically you are speeding through the entire track, and the only time the track ends is when you explode. You're trying to get as much points as you possibly can without crashing into the side of the walls, but you know, as soon as you crash and end, that's when you get your score. I think the customization in this game is also pretty fun, also because I customized my car to, you know, match my country's colors, good old Jamaica. But outside of that, I don't know how far the customization can actually go because I didn't unlock any of the other cars, but I did have a lot of fun with the base car. And I want to see how far they want to see when you add other, you know, vehicles as you go through. I believe the tracks are a little bit more simple, but I think the goal is that you're supposed to have, you know, high numbered laps but shorter tracks. Now, I do believe that there's maybe one or two longer tracks in the game, but outside of that, you're mainly playing the ones that have 6 laps attached to them. The only negative I have is that it's very hard to tell when you know you finished the track. You kind of just keep going until it says finish, and you don't really see the other drivers. You kind of just see tiny specks of light and they kind of just move past you as you go along, which is kind of weird. It's kind of something that I don't really particularly like because it feels like you're just driving by yourself until you see like a gleam of light to zoom past you. So if it made it a little bit more obvious for you to see them as you go along, I believe I would like it a lot more. But also add a more prominent finish line. I believe that would be a good addition to the game. But outside all of that, I believe this game is an obvious cop. It was really fun to play. The stylization was never getting tiresome. I feel bad for those who might have like seizures and stuff like that, so warning in case if you have those problems. But up to this point, I believe this game is an obvious cop. Polyfighter. Now we're going to two of my favorite gaming genres, fighting games and roguelites. This game is called Polyfighter, a single player roguelite fighting game where you learn a bunch of new moves as you go along from different opponents as you defeat them. You can run through the game with tense retro arcade duels while at the same time choosing between simple and motion inputs like any other fighting game and master the moveset and claim your title as one of the greatest fighters in the entirety of Polyfighter. Now, one thing I would say about this game, this is definitely a love letter to a lot of these old school fighting games that you're used to, like old school Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, all that good stuff, because a lot of the moves are very similar to a lot of those different games. Like, you don't really see anything that has its unique own element to the game, but then granted, I might not have ran into them. But so far, what I've seen, it's a lot of references to a lot of different games as you go through it. But one thing for sure, this game was definitely a blast to get through. You know, you can meet all these different characters. You basically pick whoever you want and they start off with their own base skill. And as you defeat people as you go along, you can change your moveset as you increase in the ranks. And I did have fun with some of the different moves that you can get as you progress, because I got like a lightning dash as I went through it, and I thought it was just wave dashing built into it, like a built-in mechanic for it. So I just thought it was really entertaining to just wave dash with that move. Now, I will admit that I underestimated this game. I thought that it might be a little bit clunky, a little bit too, easy to get through. I thought the NPCs would be a little bit of a pushover, but it's far from that. The NPCs actually do give you a little bit of a whooping as you go through if you're lacking a little bit, and it's also a roguelite. So you lose health in the previous match and you go through as you progress, you have the same health. You don't really heal that much. So you got to keep track of your health. It's not like any other basic fighting game where you win a match and you progress and you reset to neutral with all full health. You got to keep track of that the entire time. Now, I do believe the game can work on some of the hit stun and some of the, animations you go through the game. I do believe some of the motions of the characters could be improved a little bit in terms of fluidity, but outside of that, it was nothing too crazy because I do like the charm of the characters having, the polygons being relatively exposed, and it's supposed to be a mix of like arcade fighting, so it's not supposed to look too polished. So I really do like that look, and with all of that combined, I actually really would actually cop this game. I do believe there should be some improvements in terms of what moves you can get, a little bit more creativity on that, add a little bit more diversity in the actual movesets, but so far they're on the right track. Hawthorne. So this demo I'm a little bit more, how you might say, less critical of, because this is a proof of concept demo. So this game is being developed from former developers from Bethesda, BioWare, and Naughty Dog combined to bring you a sandbox RPG realm of anthropomorphic animals and fairy creatures. And basically this whole demo is just to figure out how far they've come since their last iteration of the game, or based off their last updates. Now, I believe this game is supposed to be described of a mix of Skyrim and Stardew Valley. Now, I've never played Stardew Valley, but I have played Skyrim, and I can see the inspirations from there heavily. So in this game, you can pick between playing as a rat, a otter, or an owl. I chose to be an otter because your boy likes to be tall and lanky, even though that may not be my IRL depiction. But either way, you can just run around the entire environment and do a lot of cool stuff. You can fly around as an owl and venturing in the area. You can go as far as you want, build structures, live in houses, eat food, and you can have a lot of different traits and aspects to your character that changes your character in different ways, making them have a little bit more health, but you hate the taste of mushrooms, so you might be a little bit of allergic, so you might lose or get a debuff because of it. Also, if you're a fan of games like Terraria, this will be a good game for you. Now, this is more on the cozy side compared to the beginning games like Moss I played earlier. Now, I need a little bit more details from this game for me to understand, because I just found this game through Steam Next Fest, and I want to know more about what you can do in this game, because I believe there's a great potential for this game to be a really cool concept, a really cool idea, a really cool continuation, to the point that it reminds me of an old game that came out ages ago called Free Roams, and I really loved Free Roams when I was a kid. So honestly, if that game is leading towards that idea to being something greater and even more fun, I am actually looking forward to copying this game. I don't really have any other major complaints because it runs fine, the music is fantastic, the environment looks great, it runs really good, it seems like you can actually understand what's going on pretty seamlessly, and some of the dialogue is pretty fun. So honestly, I will say this right now, Hawthorne is a pretty decent, it's a loose, but a decent cop. And I am looking forward to what they add to this game in the future. Xenonia. Now, I am not fully familiar with this franchise because it seems like when I was going through it, this is actually a faithful reimagining or restoration of a game that used to exist and now it's now back on Steam. Now, I am not completely familiar with this game. I tried it for the first time through Steam's Next Fest and I had a lot of fun. This is a RPG that seems to have a, I guess, somewhat cult fan base. I'm not entirely sure. One of my friends knows it pretty well, so I'm assuming it's pretty good because he's a big fan of a lot of these RPGs. So I gave it a shot because he asked me to, and I do like the fact that this is like a in-time action RPG where you run around and you can do some sandbox stuff, and there's a cool anime feel to it, the cool betraying backstory, you know, giving me Naruto vibes because, you know, the MC is hated by the village that he's living in because he happens to be related to demons, and the Holy Knights had to take him in, and leading to one of their greatest Holy Knights being killed by one of the head demons, and they blame it on to him and him being existing in the village. It was a really cool story. I was enjoying what I was seeing. Now, in the RPG space, I'm far less traveled than a lot of other people, so I may not be familiar on what you guys may like or dislike about this game, but from my perspective, if you have a problem with turn-based RPGs, this game gives you a bunch of magical spells, melee combat, and on top of that, there seems to be a fun little morality section that you can actually go through the game with. So seemingly, this game has a bunch of different endings that we don't know about. But when I was playing the demo, I was having a lot of fun going through it. Now, I do wish that some of the music when you're going through the game would keep playing when you're going into buildings, but it actually goes completely silent until you start talking to someone. So I would wish that there was actually music, you know, like when you're going into a Pokemon Center, when you're playing Pokemon games, music is still playing, but it's like a little bit more softer version. So if they do that, I'll be a lot more satisfied. Now, I went through the whole demo with real no problems. I didn't have any hiccups. I really enjoyed the combat, and I was really liking the story. The only thing is, if you're not a big fan of like fetch quests, you know, you run around, you kill creatures, you collect stuff, and you go back to the village and you do these kind of relatively, you know, happy-go-lucky missions, but they help build up your money, your XP, all that good stuff, then this game is probably not for you. I don't mind these kind of things, so this game is definitely a cop for me. But if you don't mind these kind of RPGs, I feel like you should keep a lookout for this game for sure. Milky Delivery. Now we're going back into the cozy gaming sphere, you know, a sphere of gaming that I haven't talked about in a minute. Now we're going to be playing this game where you rebuild a community one bottle at a time with your tiny delivery adventure with your pet cow Milky. You run around gathering resources to upgrade your barn, then your bike to go along their paths, then you go see breezy meadows and seaside cliffs just to deliver fresh milk with the help of our good old girl Milky to the sleepy and helpful countryside. Now, my last copper drop, I said before, I'm not the biggest fans of cozy games because I just never really gave them a shot. They were just not for me. But given that I decided to expand my horizons a little bit more and gave a shot to Restory back in my first copper drop, I decided to open my horizons a little bit further to try other cozy games also. And this game was also another delight to try. It's a breath of fresh air where you run around and you see these very stylized characters, but you get this point-and-click adventure where you're just delivering milk. If you really like the film Kiki's Delivery Service, you will actually really like this game because it's essentially that, but instead of you being a witch trying to deliver bread and all these different things, you're a little girl on a bike delivering milk. And also, there seems to be an interesting backstory that you might want to learn more about. The goal of the main character is to find other cows so that Milky can have more friends because Milky is a little bit of a lonely girl. She needs some buddies. But you learn as you interact with a lot of the characters in the countryside that they said they haven't seen any cows in a long time. So there might be a mystery going on in the backstory of this game. And all I'm going to say, this is a really good game if you want to just decompress. You know, you don't have to use it's point and click. You get to hear this very soothing music. In fact, you might find yourself falling asleep playing the game. I know I almost did when I tried to because I just really enjoy the soothing nature of the game. You can even reduce the speed of the main characters traveling just to make it slower, and you just point and click whenever you want to do other stuff to collect resources, collect money, and there's a little bit of upgrades as you go along. It's nothing too overly complicated. And on top of that, you get cool little backstories for each of the characters you run into, and you basically pick and choose where you want to spend your energy. So this game is nothing more than a cop to me. I don't see anything about this cozy game that will make me turn away from it. So right now, this is a good cop, and if you really like games like this, you should cop it also. Penguin Colony. Brother, what happened to you? Sir, it's unfortunate for you. Let me lay an egg on your head. I'm gonna lay an egg on your head. I actually do not know if I'm female or male. It doesn't matter though. I'm gonna still lay an egg on your head. All I'm gonna say, this is probably the most surprising game that I've actually tried. So this is one of those walking simulator games that has Lovecraftian horror applied to it, but you're only perceiving it through the eyes of a penguin. And seemingly this game is taking place during the time frame of the 1930s because there's a bunch of different rival human factions at your home in the Antarctic, and one of them being the good old Yahtzees. But through your penguin eyes, you observe their descent into madness, insanity in this relatively faithful reimagining of H.P. Lovecraft's At the Mountains of Madness and other stories that are applied to it. Now, I'm not familiar with that story in H.P. Lovecraft, so I know I gotta go read that now to better understand this game. But you're essentially playing a penguin going through all of these weird structures, seeing even the people, all of the workers, all of the researchers, all those who are there to just take a look at this information, and you see them, smacking their head against the wall. Some of them, even their brains just exploded in the middle of a conversation. Some of them are communicating with alien language at the very edge of a cliff, with some of them having a little bit of a gun to their dome. It's actually kind of insane how cool looking and interesting this game is. To the point that I can actually see this as a really good horror film, like an animated horror film through the eyes of a penguin. This actually would be a really cool idea. Now, this is one of my first official true walking simulator game. I say in quotations because I don't know if you can actually do anything else in the game because I never played Death Stranding or anything like that. So this is one of my first times playing this kind of game in that genre, and honestly, this game is an immediate cop. It's an immediate cop because you can do a lot of goofy stuff playing as a penguin because you can switch between different penguins, but all of the story that you're hearing as you go along, the narration is awesome, the environments are crazy, you do a lot of collectibles. It's a really fun, good game if you just want to enjoy the story that's being told to you through the eyes of these characters who may already be dead. You may not know if they exist or not. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of clunkiness to the movement, but I believe that adds to the charm of the game. I don't think it's meant to be the most smoothest movement on planet Earth because I sometimes struggle to go into the ice water and then get out of the ice and then get back on land. Sometimes I struggle there. But outside of that, this is a really cool game. The concept is interesting, the designs of the characters look awesome, the narration is amazing, and I actually really like the stories being told to me so far, to the point I know I'm probably going to buy this game when it actually releases. So if you like these kind of games, you should definitely cop this game also. Now, those were the first 10 demos that I played for Steam's Next Fest for this few months, and I am going to do, I believe, 1 or 2 more videos in the coming weeks with the remaining demos that I actually played. The only reason why I'm not doing it all in one video is because I don't feel like doing an hour video that I did the first time. And if I happen to miss any because I did play a lot, I'm probably going to do a bunch of different shorts and I'm going to post them onto my TikTok or my Instagram. So if you want to see any others that I don't talk about on my other videos, check out my other socials in the link below. Other than that, let me know what you guys feel about those games and if you like those reviews that I gave them, and also let me know how you feel about those demos. Are there any demos that you have not seen me talk about in this video and you want me to talk about in the next one? Are there any ones that you really like? Which ones you really dislike? Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That helps out in the long run. It's your boy Kadukun. I'll see you guys next time, and peace.
FMA, handle business, don't play. On point when it comes to the anime. Jack and Daxter, ayy, let's go. The ultimate heroes, don't stop, we on the road. Kadu-kun.
Yeah, welcome to the channel.